And then whenever he speaks, make sure you mute yourself. Oh, yeah. Click on the circle right here. Click on adding. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Call it again. Yeah. I didn't realize it was broken.
I was looking at that. I was wondering if it was...
Oh my god. I'm glad you caught that because I didn't catch that. Look at that hydration right there.
Oh yeah. Hydrome's fun. You are? You are?
No. Where did that come from?
That's where he said like
No.
I was like, wow. Can you still code?
Bro, I'd be impressed. I couldn't read I would read it and it just starts falling away.
I still can't read your code on that.
You should pass me my phone right here. Let's get the little charger there.
So, funnily enough, that chalkboard does the cover and stuff. But a lot of it's not exactly learning appropriate, I'll say. So they come in and periodically erase all of our beautiful artwork.
People like to draw Among Us.
Yeah, there's a lot of Among Us that happens on it. It's
Oh,
very
nice.
creative, this man.
Good here. Let's start it.
All right, I guess we'll go ahead and get started then. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the October 26th club meeting. Nice to see so many people here. Today we have the absolute privilege of having one of the coolest individuals ever coming to speak for us, Mr. John Hammond.
Thanks, everybody.
He's a cybersecurity researcher, educator, YouTube content creator. Definitely check his videos out. They're awesome. He also has like a billion different cybersecurity certs and assorted things like that. He's also been in the industry for a long time. And personally, he's been one of the people that's inspired me to pursue cybersecurity. So I'm hoping that can help some of you. So without further ado, John.
All right. Sweet. Well, hey, thanks so much. I super appreciate the warm welcome and the flattering introduction. So, how's everyone doing? It feels weird that it's like, I don't know. Does anyone feel like it should not be Wednesday? Yeah.
I wish it was later in the week, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, whenever I do some more like university presentations or I get to hang out with students and get to have a great time with you all, it feels like it's always like a Thursday or a Friday or like we're at least getting closer to the end of the week, but now we're just still like halfway.
That's how it goes, I guess.
Alrighty. Well, hey, super cool. If it's totally all right with you, would love to do a little bit of show and tell. Love to do a little bit of screen share. I have just a couple, things to kind of get us started. A couple of slides, a little bit of a boring, just me talking to PowerPoint shenanigans. But hopefully we can be done with that super duper quick because ultimately I would like to spend the time getting a chance to hang out with you and have the conversations, ask questions, have the discussions that you want to have. Not some boring boilerplate canned thing that I just spit together. So if there's anything more specifically that you would like to dig into, questions that you might have, I think that's where a whole lot of the value will come from. So let's lean into that. But just for the sake of doing a presentation, quote unquote, I'll do that. I'll run through some slides. But we'll keep it totally casual and totally friendly, hopefully pretty cool and fun. So I'll fire up some screen share. I don't know if anyone is able to see that A-okay. Looking good? Sweet.
He's working on what stream? There.
Looking good,
And now we're
I think. All right. Cool. Well, hey, super boring. Just a regular obligatory title slide, but just a good time to hang out and get a chance to chat. Figured, we could do some of the unfiltered conversations, get to some of the hot stove topics that anyone might be super duper interested in. But before we dive in, incredible thank you. Seriously, it's awesome to be able to hang out with you all and spend some time together. It's just really flattering for one thing, you wanting to reach out and hey, us getting together. So thank you. Can't say that enough. And I'll probably repeatedly say that throughout the whole end of this thing. But anyway, I think the first couple of cheesy things to get started with, things that I think, ? You wanted to chat about, capture the flag, hey, getting hands-on, getting a chance to interact and play with cybersecurity, going through different categories of, hey, binary exploitation or web application security or memory forensics or networking or all those things that might come in a capture the flag Jeopardy style game. I don't know if folks want to zoom in on some industry certification stuff like the OSCP, Offensive Security Certified Professional. I don't know if folks have already cruised through that. Or if folks are leaning towards it or have it in their targets. We can chat about that a little bit. And then, hey, other things and resources and material that might be helpful for you, whether it's just future events and things otherwise going on in the industry. Hopefully just some things to have in your back pocket. So again, I know a lot of folks are probably already super duper familiar with this. I think I was chatting with some of your team earlier that's like, hey, we're already using a lot of our time on weekends to cut through capture the flag CTF competitions. I'm sure you already know. CTF Time, that incredible resource to see what games are coming up, when and where. Oftentimes online, great to cruise in. And one thing that I don't know if folks are always tracking, but Twitter, if I may say, is seriously an incredible resource for cybersecurity and information security stuff. There are always people either sharing new vulnerabilities or new exploits or tools and like things and utilities that they've built or they're sharing on GitHub or just things going on in the industry, whether it's some new event, some new threat intel, some new malware and threat actor doing whatever they do. If you don't have a Twitter account, I know it sounds dumb, but seriously, I would recommend it. You can basically curate your feed to be a constant threat intel feed or new bugs, new vulnerabilities, and new CTFs even. Back in the mind of Capture the Flag, I really like CTF Reminder. I have notifications turned on for them. It's just one of those cheesy things so that I can go ahead and remind myself in case I forget, look, there is a new game coming up, something starting in a couple hours or something just under 24 hours. Nice resource, and I try to leave notifications turned on for that. So there's that, in case that's anything interesting. Alongside that, this is an absolute laundry list. This is honestly just a small excerpt of some of those war games, some of those online cyber ranges, or some of those practice environments when there isn't a capture the flag competition going on. Like, there just isn't something running for the weekend. Well, there's always still something to do if you want to train, if you want to practice, if you want to get a little bit sharper in that field that you might be interested in. Whether it's cryptography, whether it's some of that binary exploitation stuff, whether it's web security, hey, SQL injection, checking out what databases can do and how you can take advantage of it. Of course, you've got Hack the Box, you've got Try Hack Me in there. I think oftentimes folks aren't familiar, Hack the Box and Try Hack Me are those pretty well-known and easily accessible online war game sites, but it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction to go to a Hack the Box or a Try Hack Me. But there is so much more out there. I don't know if folks are tracking some of the GitHub awesome lists, but over on GitHub, right, they have a great resource, and there are tons of these for so many different kinds of things. Whether it's capture the flag or anything else in a specific field or in a specific topic, there'll be an incredible resource, just a data dump of sweet things that you might be able to do relating to that. Awesome CTF not only talks about how you could play capture the flag or use tools or use techniques or where you might be able to find other war games, but it even talks about here's how you can host your own competition. Here's how you can spin together something related to that topic or that field or that kind of challenge that you might like. talking about hosting, talking about different platforms, and they have a super sweet table of contents here. So if there's anything that you are more interested in, you could just dive right to that. But the resources over here for war games seriously has a ton of great stuff, and it can be a long, long laundry list. Some folks might have seen even like I think there's a mind map that exists out there of all the different things you could play with. So you're never bored. Ultimately, it's a little overwhelming and a little intimidating. I will be the first to admit. Don't feel like, oh, I got a hard charge and cruise through every single one of these. No way. Like, it just can't be done. And I know, hey, you're already juggling schoolwork or any of your other life responsibilities and obligations, but just things to have in the back of your mind if you want to keep playing and practicing. That was honestly what I loved to do. Hey, when I was at university, I would skimp out on homework and I would just go in the lab and try to learn what a buffer overflow was. Truthfully, hey, we didn't have that curriculum. We didn't have like a major or undergraduate program, a strict curriculum for that. There was no computer science program or was no cybersecurity program at the Coast Guard Academy where I attended. And I will note, if it's all right, I'm not too far removed from you in full transparency. I would have been out of the Coast Guard Academy in 2018. So I still consider myself pretty green, pretty new, still a beginner, just trying to learn. But it takes a little bit of your own self-reliance. It takes a little bit of your own grit and determination to dig into all of these things. But thankfully, with stuff like this, it can be made fun. It can be made engaging. It can be made into a game. And I think that's a really good way to learn, improve. On that note, we'll pivot just slightly into some of those industry certification topics and conversations, right? This is the stuff, hey, you can slap on your resume and help bypass HR or, hey, human resources when you're trying to apply for a job, when you're trying to talk to a recruiter to get a new opportunity. Sometimes it's nice to have these accolades and these little credentials part of your offering, part of your package here that you're bringing to the table. OSCP, the Offensive Security Certified Professional Certificate, has admittedly become, I think, sometimes it's rough to say, oh, the gold standard, quote unquote. I just think it's become a large name. And when folks are trying to hire cybersecurity personnel, nerds and geeks like us, they like to see that hands-on, interactive, and engaging competency and merit. OSCP is exactly that. And just about everything the offensive security puts out there is one of those hands-on engagement things. But OSCP has built sort of an allure and mystique to it. It's a very ominous thing because for the longest time, that was all surrounding this try harder mentality. It was, man, a crammed 24-hour course exam, ultimately, that you take after some grueling time in the lab and working through beating up virtual machines, etc. And it feels a little stressful because, hey, if there's this notion if you're trying to try harder, you're just banging your head against the wall, trying to find a problem and solve it under a time crunch. When you still got to sleep and you still got to eat and shower, and do normal human things. So let me add the note. Even if you are keeping OSCP in your crosshairs and you're thinking, man, I'm hard charging for that certificate, or I'm just super duper interested in becoming a penetration tester, being one of those super sweet, sexy, elite Hollywood hackers. Look, it is not the only potential career path or thing that you have to get into or even want to get into. If you might be more interested in forensics or cryptography or threat hunting or malware analysis or even, hey, management. Like, hey, someone has to lead the team of sweet SOC analysts, people running the watch floor for a security operations center or network operations center. There are so many different assets and aspects and facets of cybersecurity. It's massive. And with that, if we open the can of worms for cybersecurity and industry certifications, there is a crap ton of them. This is an extremely overwhelming screenshot of potential options for industry certifications or some letters and acronyms you can slap at the end of your name and your title, your email signature, whatever the case may be. This comes from Paul Jeremy, I believe, and he has this link on his website, and I'll actually share this with you. I'm more than happy to give you all the slides if any of it's kind of interesting. But you can be cruising through here and actually hover over any of the specific things that you might be interested in, whether it falls into a column or unique row that you might be concerning yourself with. And again, you don't have to be a pen tester. You don't have to be a red team or hacker. You've got the blue team aspect. You've got all these other fields to dive into. I think another one that's worth a whole lot of conversations, or at least we tend to hear, I think I remember I heard a lot in academia, was becoming a CISSP, or Certified Information Systems Security Professional. That's one offered by ISC Squared, and hey, it's pretty cool. It's got some jazz to it. It's another of those big gold standard certifications to sort of prove to yourself or to others that you know what you're talking about in cybersecurity. I will say it greatly and vastly differs from OSCP because it is something that is more conversational or theoretical. It's not hands-on. There's no practical exam capstone like in an environment where you have to hack on some machines. It's the multiple choice thing. Rote memorization, data dump, just absorb osmosis the knowledge. Nothing wrong with that. Like, it has its own place, it has its own purpose, but it leans you towards more of a leadership or manager role than sort of an operator or someone on the keyboard doing some of the, in the trenches grunt work stuff. Again, nothing wrong with that. I think it's awesome. I think we need CISSPs, but it's something that you can weigh if you're wanting to continue and cruise on through this cybersecurity career thing. There's some cool incentive. CISP can help you out. CISP can further your knowledge and growth, but just weigh those options when you're like, do I want to be a manager? Do I want to be, a top dog leading a team? I'll be the first to admit, I don't have a CISP. I don't have CISSP. And to be honest, I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't want to do that right now where I am at with the stuff that I do. I'm happy to be a nerd. I'm happy to be a worker bee and just cruise on the keyboard for some delete stuff. But again, another great resource for you. Hopefully, I know it can be a little overwhelming, but maybe this can sort of navigate and at least maybe give you some ideas or thinking like, oh, there is a cool roadmap for things that I want to explore for your passions or for your interests. So if you are hard charging on OSCP though, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep disc jockeying back and forth between these. One of the latest updates and additions to OSCP is getting into Active Directory. So it's not just Linux anymore. It's not just the command line, hey, you're firing through bash, beating up, or vulnerabilities that you might be able to find off the shelf in some public database. You need to enumerate for those vulnerabilities, but OSCP turned it on its head in this modern world that we live in, because ultimately, to be a penetration tester, you're more than likely going to be walking into organizations and businesses that are managed and put together with Active Directory. Windows environments, hey, you've got a domain controller, you've got trust, you've got forest, you've got all that jazz. How can you take advantage of natural Windows functionality to perform the pen test? If you are wanting some more of that Active Directory knowledge and know-how, I'll admit it can be pretty hard to find that in a classic CTF, primarily because it's hard to host that infrastructure. It's not just one machine anymore, it's multiple, and it's Windows, so it's super bloated and takes, however much space and time to spin up. But TryHackMe has put together some of their networks, and Throwback is one great example of that to showcase all the stuff that you might be able to get into with Active Directory. They make it super duper guided. They make it super duper hand-holding and accessible. So if you have the interest, you can go through even their walkthrough representation, or you can consider it, hey, you don't know anything about the environment. You're just beating it up on your own. Totally your call, but that's always kind of been the allure of TryHackMe. If you haven't already played with it, they're always super duper generous in showcasing the solutions, like giving you all the answers, letting you see the write-up, even if you haven't completed the challenge in front of you, because they want you to learn. And that's one thing, if you don't mind me getting on a soapbox for just a moment, I think if you start to have the conversations, even just mentally or with other folks, that you were saying, like, should I look at the write-up? Or should I go look at the solutions? Is it cheating if I go find out what the answers are? Because I can't figure something out. My hot take? No, absolutely not. It's not cheating at all. You should totally 1,000% go look at the write-ups and the solutions. And you can have your own discretion on that. Say, hey, I can't figure out this one aspect of this thing that I'm hacking on, if it's a prepared war game. And maybe you just take a peek at that section so you get a breadcrumb and keep moving onwards. Because ultimately, when you're learning, and I'm using literally that keyword learning, there could be something that you're up against that you just have never ever heard of before. You don't know how to enumerate it. You don't know how to explore it. You don't know how to poke at it because you just didn't know it even existed. You're not going to be able to figure that out without a nudge. So don't beat yourself up banging your head against the wall for a day, for a week, for, I don't know, a month. Like, don't do that to yourself, because then you get bogged down and discouraged and unhappy and you don't want to do it anymore. You just throw the keyboard away, right? It's totally okay. When you're in learning mode, I honestly encourage it. Go explore, go take a peek and see what you can do to keep cruising forward. If you consider yourself in like training mode, hey, you're lifting heavy weights at the gym, whatever, you're trying to push yourself, you don't have to. You can tell yourself, look, I'm not going to look at the write-ups. I'm not going to look at the solutions. But know when you're in those two mental modes. Am I learning right now because I want to improve myself? Or am I training right now because I want to test myself? Totally your call. But forgive me. Again, I think I've been beating up OSCP for a little bit too long. But again, if this is a resource that folks might be up against, I should do a quick poll, to be honest. I don't know if folks are even interested in OSCP or if anyone's already got it. But this resource from TJ Null, he is a community manager over at Offensive Security, that company and organization that puts out the certification, with a ton of stuff, like on everything that you might be wanting to learn or know or have in your back pocket for the exam. It has the sweet table of contents again, so you can click into or index anything that you might like. But I'll scroll through this giant dump of stuff. Bear in mind, it is text. It is a giant dump of stuff. It is not something that you could maybe easily look at because there's just so much and your eyes might glaze over from all that reading. But break it up. Put it in those digestible chunks for the section that you might be interested in. But it references different tools that you could use. It references different techniques, different things to do in a certain situation. I think that's worth having your own checkpoints to tell yourself, oh, I land on a Windows machine. Now what do I do? What do I do to enumerate? How can I do privilege escalation? What are the things that I can try? Those are all great specific things to have in your back pocket. Another resource, and I will share that link with you and all these slides in case you have an interest in it. But if you ask me, if you ask, as some folks tend to ask, hey, what is your advice? What's your words of wisdom for going for my OSCP or an exam or just any test that you're trying to take? OSCP specifically, here's my generic, boring advice that anyone could tell you, but I think these are the especially important ones. Try to get your exam report and the template and the skeleton that you need to work in all ready and prepped before you take the exam. When you sit down for that 24 hours, hunkering in the session here, you want to have all that time doing the exam, not trying to fiddle with Microsoft Word or whatever OneDrive or crap that you might be using. Personally, I really like to write stuff in Markdown. So it's just simple plain text that can be easily rendered to HTML or LaTeX and PDFs, sweet stuff. And I use Obsidian for that personally, because then you can copy and paste screenshots super duper easy. And that's the other point. While you're going through the test, write your report as you do it. Like, it can just be the narrative of this is what I popped here and when and how I found this vulnerability because I was doing this research, and just screenshot and plop it in. Like, you'll save your time later on after the fact. Super duper recommend taking breaks. I seriously would take a break like every hour. It sounds wild, but it's like a 10-minute, 5-minute, doesn't matter. You just get up and pace around the room. Just clear your head. Don't look at the computer screen for a little bit, or just keep thinking, hey, I'm moving forward. I found this new breakthrough. I've got a lead for something that I might be able to go beat up. Take breaks and just get yourself away from the chained keyboard and desk for a little bit. Super important to know your tools. Ultimately, it's just knowing the syntax. Hey, I want to do this weird thing with nmap, or crap, I forgot all the arguments to like wfuzz or hydra or whatever, or bloodhound, or things that you might end up using for sharphound or crackmap exec. Try to have all that already staged in your notes, and that's why it's worth going through those war games and practice ranges, because you could build all this out, and when it comes to showtime, copy and paste. Copy and paste, baby. Like, you barely have to write any code or commands on your own, because you've got most everything staged for the processes and the procedures that you want to run through. Very last tip, and I'm sorry, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but going through an exam like this, or even a cyber range or practice environment, it is built, it is architected so that there is a way to solve the problem. There is a pathway to go down. Everything is there for a reason. It's something you can latch onto. If you see like some weird random Apache Nagios X service that's not a default thing, you'd be like, what is that? Why is that there? How come this Windows machine has like Python installed? That's not normal. Do some due diligence, do some research, maybe figure out, ooh, maybe that could lead to some privilege escalation, whatever. Whenever you see something just odd, hey, take note of it and then do a little more due diligence on that, because it is there for a reason. Enumerate everything and, leave no stone unturned, etc. Most important advice, that's super duper boring one. When you are going through this exam or anything else that you're trying to challenge yourself with, don't let yourself slow down. Don't beat yourself up. Don't feel like, oh, I'm running out of time. There's no way I could get something within however many hours I have left. Don't do that. That self-talk is just going to crush you. Don't give up. It sounds super boring. It sounds like cliche, but seriously, that's the only way that you're dooming yourself. It's the only way that you'll fail is when you voluntarily throw in the towel. Yeah. Other things. And then, hey, we'll open the door pretty soon for actual questions that you might be interested in, right? Rather than just canned crap. I'm a huge proponent and advocate for, hey, going to information security or cybersecurity events, getting out and networking with people. I know it was a little bit harder to do, right? In the COVID-19 pandemic world we were living in. Hey, we were kicking it on Discord, doing a whole ton of virtual events. Bleh. It's still sweet to moderate. It's still sweet to volunteer. It's still sweet to be present there when they have good talks. But being a member of the community is how you can just skyrocket. Not only your learning, but the community's learning, the whole landscape. And you don't have to give a talk. You don't have to give a presentation. You don't have to feel pressured like, oh, I'm going to assign myself some new obligation when I wanted to go to a fun conference like DEF CON or Black Hat or ShmooCon or RSA or B-Sides, anything. You don't have to, but it's a cool thing. I really like to use this cfptime.org. The same way there is a ctftime.org, there's a call for papers time.org. So when conferences might be soliciting for new speakers or presentations, again, totally don't have to submit anything, but this might be a pretty good benchmark. It's just a good feed to see what events are coming up. Like, hey, what can I attend? What can I be a part of? And even if it's somewhere that you can't physically get to, probably has a hybrid option now, or say, hey, some virtual attendee support. So you can tune into talks that you're interested in or play their capture the flag, et cetera, et cetera. So CFP time, I super duper recommend. I think there's also an infosecconferences.com. But I would get super duper scrappy. When I was over at my university for the Coast Guard Academy, I was the cheesy cyber team captain. In air quotes, right? Because it's the whole military institution stuff, so they have to have a sports credit. So somehow we swindled a bunch of admirals and generals that, hey, cybersecurity is now a sport, and I was the cheesy team captain. But I would look for events on Reddit. I would look for events, it's weird, on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, of course, right? Like I would just try to find more ways we could plug in and be a part of this. So even if you're, hey, one of the, I guess, club officers or president or team leader, whatever the case may be, or if you're not, I think this is a super cool way to keep things growing. And with that, I've been rambling for like 30 minutes, and I'm super duper sorry, but I did want to give us, hey, a whole lot of sweet time to answer your questions or just dive into anything that you might be more interested in. We can talk about creating content. We can talk about YouTube. We can talk more about CTFs, but hosting it and putting on the games. Or we can get into, hey, some more industry crap, whether it's malware analysis, threat hunting, dark web, cybercrime, ransomware, or just my own stupid mistakes or ethical dilemmas and the things that no one really tells you about. When on the outside, hey, a career in cybersecurity sounds awesome and super lucrative and like really fulfilling. But man, it's not all sunshine and roses, right? So I will open the door for a little bit to, I don't know, ask if there are any questions. I'm lurking in the no mic voice channel in Discord if anyone is a little too nervous to speak up. But with that, I'll open the floor. If there's any direction or any question you want to dive into at all, or otherwise I can drag us through some other sweet stuff with a little grab bag of some more slides and content to discuss. But before I go off the deep end, how are you guys feeling? Anyone asleep yet?
Believe it or not, I don't think most of us are still awake. but I will say I would like, because I think most of us here were actually pretty new. I mean, there's a few exceptions, but most of us are pretty new into like the cybersecurity kind of world. So in your definition, what is like, you know, what if any average Joe came to see you and said, "What is cybersecurity?" What would you tell him? Basically?
Ooh, okay. Well, super good question. I'm sorry if I like completely missed the mark and was way off base with everything I was already chatting about. But so I'm going to give you a philosophical answer, and then I'm going to get much more tactical. But I always tend to say, and it sounds cheesy. Here, I'll stop streaming for a moment. I tell people that like cybersecurity is a heartbeat or a pulse of things actively happening in the digital world, like good and bad. Because hey, you're using the applications on your cell phone, or you're cruising through social media, chatting with your friends, or you're just hanging out in Discord, right? But whenever you upload a file or you share something with someone across on Discord, just as easily, you might be sharing some file homework assignments or anything like, but that file could be malicious. It could be malware. It could be staging something that maybe put together as a ploy or deception or something to scam an end user eventually. You might just get those random DMs here and there, or a social engineering email, or hey, some weird Instagram messages, whatever. Like, I think people can take advantage of the digital platform that we've built to do malicious things, whether it's steal information, impersonate you, grab data that you willingly put online, or the same way you log into your bank or Amazon. We put that in computers. So when someone twists that and puts it in a malicious way, that's the back and forth of fighting that and the act of that. You've got a weird good versus evil, red versus blue, offense versus defense. And that's a constant thing that doesn't go away. When you say, hey, technology is always changing, well, we got to keep up with it. You got to stay on the pulse. So I don't know. Cybersecurity, right?
What are the biggest downsides of the career field?
Ooh, cool. Thank you. Yeah. I super duper appreciate you letting me banter and riff off of some of that. I'll go ahead and share my screen again because, as I mentioned, right, it's constant. It doesn't stop. And when there are adversaries or threat actors or hackers or malicious people that just want to cause real damage, it's weird because the way that we learn, the way that we practice was through playing games. We play capture the flag. We do tabletop exercises. We try to role play out our doomsday situation. But when you bring it to the real world, they're real adversaries trying to do real harm against real people. It's not a game anymore, which is a little wild. And they'll take advantage of people when they aren't thinking about it. So when you, hey, go leave campus or do whatever you might be doing for vacation, or you got a long weekend, you're just, hey, I'm just going to steamroll home and go do whatever I want. I'm not even looking at my computer or whatever the case may be. System administrators, organizational leaders, they let their guard down. So, all the incident responders and all the geeks and nerds and cybersecurity researchers, well, that means we're going to give up the long weekend or kill our vacation because we need to go track this new vulnerability. We need to go, hey, uncover this malware. We need to go see how the threat actors got in our environment and how to get them out. And that kind of sucks because, like, dude, that can kill family time, stuff that you want to be doing with friends for the holidays, and it wears you down here and there. People talk about burnout when you just get really fatigued and you just don't feel like doing it anymore. Like, think is, hey, something that you're super duper passionate about, but you've been doing it for so long that you're just sort of numb to it at this point. It's like, man, I don't need to right now. Same thing with imposter syndrome. It's really, really easy to see folks out on the Twitterverse or on the internet being champions, titans of like their craft, showcasing cool new tools, new research, things that they've been putting out in the ether. And you sort of compare yourself to them, like, man, I'm not doing that. I don't have my name up in lights, or I'm not like singing the praises out on social media. You compare yourself a little bit, and that's hard to do. Something you need to think like, man, I'm a fraud. I'm a charlatan when I see all these other incredible people in the field. And if I can drive on that just a little bit more, if it's all right, because I think, I have a hunch, I thought I heard some of you do play Capture the Flag. So in the CTFs, you're finding a vulnerability and you're taking advantage of it to exploit it, right? So you can get the flag and prove that you accomplished this task. It's really weird when this, again, happens outside of that game environment. Say if you're doing bug bounty, or even you're just, I don't know, poking around on some website, and then whoops, you stumble across this weird error message or stack trace. And like some information that you shouldn't have seen just shows up. Like you accidentally leaked some other user's data, whatever the case may be, and you found a vulnerability and you want to report it to a real company or a real organization. It's really weird because they're going to have their own perspective and their own feelings about that whole situation. They're going to be like, are you a hacker? Are you trying to hack me? Or is this ransomware? Whatever. They can be all alarmist. But even if you come with the like absolute, genuine, trying to be like as safe and as treading lightly as I can be, like, no, I just want to improve your computer security. I just want to better the cybersecurity landscape. It's wild because you might think that like this is a critical vulnerability. I've leaked thousands of people's data. I can execute code and run commands on these servers. This was something some time ago. So up on the screen, if you're tracking on my screen share, I know this is way back in 2020. So it's a few years back. But we found a vulnerability, and I was chatting with my boss. I was chatting with Kyle, CEO over at my day job. And he's like, hey, we're going to go chat with the maintainers, chat with the people who own or that have the security point of contact for this company. And they want to know about this. We should tell them, and let's not accidentally do anything more until we get their blessing and they're in the know of what's happening with this vulnerability. So we reached out to them. Kyle had said, hey, I tracked him down. I've got a little bit more information here. And again, I'm just coming forward. We're not hackers. We're not bad people. We're just trying to make things better. But this is cybersecurity. There's a real threat here. We want to tell you before threat actors and hackers take advantage of it. So we emailed him, dump of all this stuff. Hey, we've got the information disclosure. We've got privilege escalation. I can change other people's profile pictures. That's really weird. I can change their information, the company that other users work for, quote unquote, and then code execution. Like I can compromise or own that server. You don't have to read all that, by the way, but I'm pointing at the timestamp because way back in September is when we tried to contact them. And then a week later, we were like, hey, just checking in, making sure you heard this. Kind of a severe critical vulnerability here. Another week goes by. Hey guys, just wanted to make sure you got this. I'd like to see if there's a fix or anything coming up. And then eventually, weeks later, again on October 17th, hey, we finally got a response from them. And it's so weird because he says, hey, now, do you mind actually just firing up another conversation? It's like, guys, we just gave you all the actionable intel. We'd love more forward motion and a patch or a fix or a way to improve these issues. We don't want to keep kicking the can down the road when it's already been some weeks here. But that's one of the weird things. Because how you perceive security will vastly differ from what someone else does, and their perspective and how they'll approach it and how they'll respond to things. So I'm sorry. I know I took your question and I blew it out of the water and beat it to death here, but those are a lot of those things. The stuff that people don't talk about, and I can pour more into that and some ethical dilemmas if we'd like. But that's a weird one. Like, I'm trying to improve, and I can't just even get other people to come alongside on the journey here. Does that sort of answer your question? Yeah.
What are like some common mistakes to avoid for like a new person trying to get into the cybersecurity field?
Ooh. Do you mean, like, if I can color that in a little bit more, do you mean for your own security? Like, hey, what should I be doing? How can I make sure that I am safe and secure online? Or just things that you're trying to learn and improve your growth and understanding in learning cybersecurity?
Yeah, like learning and getting into the industry.
Ooh, okay. Um, Here's one thing I think I could drive on with that. It's very, very easy to see some things online and trying to track down and get resources for how can I learn something new? How can I improve? You're going to see dozens and hundreds and thousands of online courses. Buy my course so you can be a hacker. Buy my course so you can become, hey, whatever you need to be in a pen tester or blue teamer or cybersecurity professional. If you just give me the right price of however many $100 or thousands of dollars, you too can be part of the pantheon here. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you don't need to fork over all that money. I know I was chatting about some of the industry certifications just beforehand, and those do come with a price tag. But look, a lot of the resources online, try hack me, most everything is free. Hack the Box, another war game, a lot of stuff can be accessible for free. I'm not by any means trying to toot my own horn, but like YouTube, fantastic place for learning. All the videos and all the education is totally free. You can Google, you can find articles, you can do some research alongside online. I think the biggest mistake is spending money when you don't have to, maybe.
What exactly is capture the flag and war games in security? What is that?
Oh, goodness. Man, I am super sorry, guys. I totally read the audience wrong and was all going off this hunch. I was throwing around letters and words that I'm super sorry. Let me go ahead and do some super quick screen share one more time. So a CTF or a capture the flag is a game. It's an online activity. It's a puzzle. It is a series of questions, right? And maybe I can get a better slide for this here. Alphabet soup. Whoops. Maybe that's the wrong one. Keep that fun. That's it. it's a game that you can play online for specifically practicing different aspects of cybersecurity. Again, whether you want to be a programmer, you want to code things, you want to make video games, you just like writing software and applications. Ultimately, all these different categories, again, binary exploitation or web or cryptography, and they'll be presented to you as challenges. And you'll be able to click on one of the challenges here and sort of like a Jeopardy style board. And that's why you hear that oftentimes. But they'll just give you a simple task. They'll give you a prompt. And maybe there'll be a file that's attached that you can download and play and explore, like a picture where you might have to find a secret message in something. And you'll eventually, after solving that challenge or completing that task, you'll submit the flag, like a key, like a long string of text, specific letters or symbols that prove and validate you did it. You accomplished the task, and then you can move forward on the scoreboard. The way that it's a game is that all these other people might be playing, might be doing these tasks, and then you'll get to see, how do you measure up? Where are you on the scoreboard compared to your friends, compared to your peers? In the first place, second place, third place team might take home prizes, super cool toys, some gadgets, maybe some cash, maybe money. That's normally a pretty good incentive, right? But this can get super duper nerdy. Hey, it might be connecting to services and ultimately solving new challenges or breaking different sorts of technology and software. But again, using the scoreboard, using the leaderboard as a means to benchmark and see, how can I improve? Because if you think, ooh, I see this player, Elliot Alderson, right above me, and if I just solved one more challenge, I could beat them, and then I could move higher on the scoreboard. If I tackle one more problem and go explore one other activity, I'll learn something new and I'll improve. And that's a lot of the value in Capture the Flag. It's getting hands-on and being able to play with it in a fun, gamified way.
Awesome. So I guess kind of going on with that, what would be maybe some CTFs or competitions that would be really good for someone who just starting out learning?
Yeah. So I always tend to truthfully recommend Pico CTF. And again, this might be different for others. Maybe your learning style is different. Maybe, hey, you prefer to read or watch videos first. However, they do offer, Pico CTF gives away some videos to help showcase how you can dig into this. Pico CTF is great because it is very, very guided and very, very hands-on. I think they even tried to say, hey, it's for, they say this, but take it with a grain of salt. It's a Capture the Flag for middle schooler or high school students, which is totally not true. They say that because it's accessible, because it's friendly, because it's welcoming, and you get hand-holding for the first couple of challenges. But it's meaning to research. It's meaning to go Google around and learn something new. Pico CTF is super duper affordable, accessible. If I actually just log in, it is totally free. And they have always running and accessible practice challenges in their gym. So if you wanted to go explore, hey, there might be challenges that you haven't played with before, or any, again, of those categories that you might be interested in. And I wish I would throw together a demo here. I'm sorry, guys. I would have done something a little bit more. But ultimately, it's going to explore, and Pico CTF is one of those great ones to get started. I had a huge list earlier if there are other interesting things, but would totally recommend that 1,000%.
Earlier, you were talking about like with the team role playing a disaster scenario. Do you think you could go over one of those scenarios with us, like what that's like?
Ooh, for sure. Let me tell a little bit of a story here on that one, if that's all right. So I'm going to dive into a scenario that was an active malware and threat actor and hacker in the environment. This is an article that I put out earlier this year for some work based off of the real things for my own day job. And this was an APT, an advanced persistent threat, one of the a known and considered strong in its reputation, like state actors, right? One of the hackers that were taking advantage of an organization that is a special organization, right? For the sake of national security, hey, a little think tank doing research, trying to do foresight and planning for the potential threats of other foreign areas and locations and countries, and what sort of power they have with arms and weapons and nuclear stuff, right? Trying to be as vague and as politely surrounding that conversation as I can. So there was a individual, a leader in this organization, and we'll call her Alice for the sake of the conversation. And she received an email from random Voice of America. Hey, some reporters, journalism that wanted to do an interview on some of the thinking and research that they do at this organization. Wanted to keep it simple, wanted to keep it polite, but they just have a conversation with someone trying to get some interview questions. And Alice says, absolutely, more than happy to answer your questions here. I think this would be great. Happy to answer these things. Now, one of the notes here is that this person, this other entity, this journalist or reporter from Voice of America, is not using a Voice of America email address. They've received this message from yahoo.com, which might be a good telltale and tip off that, oh, you're not really who you say you are. And I'm alluding to this to eventually be a scam, eventually this to be a ploy. This is social engineering and phishing at its finest, because they do a little bit of a dance. They build up trust. She wasn't readily sending Alice malicious email or an attachment that could detonate malware. They actually did a little bit of back and forth. Alice sent them a document, and then they come back and say, thanks so much. This is great. I just edited it. I tweaked things. I rearranged it a bit, and I've now password protected this new file. So if you don't mind reviewing this, we can get it printed and we can roll the story. So super interesting ploy here, built up a little bit of trust, but now this document is malware. This is that scenario. And this person, Alice, says, hey, I've checked in with other members of my team. I sent this to Bob. I sent this to Charlie. Spreading malware unknowingly. And they all said, this is great. We're cool with this. And they don't have to respond. The hackers and the threat actors don't have to respond because they've won. They've just got their initial access. They've just opened the document and detonated the malware. And there are stories about this, actually, I think even dating back to 2020. Folks impersonating these potential reporters to try and lure experts and fool social engineering folks. I'll get into a little bit of the malware. Let me pull open some of the code here, if that's all right. But it looks like a dumb, stupid Microsoft Word document that says, hey, please click enable editing and enable content. And that's all it needs for macros and code inside the document to run. I'll pull that up if it's all right. But ultimately, we do our due diligence, cutting through the code here, trying to understand all that's happening. They use some super sneaky techniques. And what I'm meaning to get at is that this trick, this social engineering ploy, this malware that got in the system has been lurking in a national think tank, national security agency spot for over a year. And they're doing information espionage. They're trying to see what research do they already have. They're implying keyloggers, like things that will monitor every keystroke that you have, and trying to exfiltrate and leak and listen out data. Like, okay, browser tabs, where you search and navigate on the internet, where you all end up doing these specific things. It was super duper spooky just as well. I don't mean to get too far into the nerd stuff here, but if you dig into the code, they would check and validate is the username going to match Bob or Alice? These names are redacted for confidentiality's sake. And will only detonate the malware if the username matches, if we are targeting the specific person that we wanted. And I was like, oh, wow, that's very, very targeted. And that's APT activity. So maybe I'm sorry, I don't know if I've gone off the deep end again, but I wanted to tell that story. And that's one of those examples for here's a tabletop exercise. You get fooled and you get tricked by social engineering, deploying out malware in your own organization, sent to all of your teammates to open and review just as well. And it's lurking and listening in for over a year. Something to, I don't know, think on. How do you respond? How do you recover? How do you remediate, etc.? Sorry, hope I didn't drill into that one too hard.
How do you think the career field of cybersecurity will change within like 10 or 15 years? Like, how drastically do you think it will change? Like with the advancements of like computers coming up, like supercomputers and like quantum computers and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, super good question. I have a boring answer, but I'll explain. When people ask, hey, what are your predictions? What's going to happen in the next 5 years of security? Whatever news articles or headlines want to write about that, I tell them we're going to see the exact same stuff we've been seeing, just more of it. There's going to be more ransomware, more cybercrime, more cryptocurrency miners, botnets, DDoS attacks, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're just going to spread out that problem even more so, just because it's what we do. Like, hey, we're all excited about the cloud. We're excited about putting data on new other servers and computers out there that we don't have to host locally. But now we're just moving the problem over there to the cloud. You got all these cool newfangled things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, et cetera, which are awesome, which are incredible. They're super sweet in their own right. They got awesome innovation there. When people ask the questions, are AI robots going to take over our jobs? Is computers and robots going to destroy the human race? Crap like that. I don't know. I'm not that alarmist, and I haven't drank the Kool-Aid personally. That's just a John opinion. But I think with the advent of some of that, I don't know if folks have been playing with like the Dolly art generator for AI stuff. When you do social engineering ploys and scams and phishing emails that we just saw, you can add a whole lot more to the facade and the charade if you can fake the person, the identity. So I think the biggest game changer, and this is totally just me play pretend a futurist, but all the deep fake stuff, that one still kind of makes my skin crawl. Like, hey, we've been chatting on Discord and you got an hour worth of footage of me talking, and you can now mimic my voice and my face and my mannerisms and everything like that. When we start to get to see that stuff plastered out on the internet, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, I think that's where a whole lot more scams and malware will spread, because the misinformation thing is just going to get bigger. Meh.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think I've got one more question, and then we can probably wrap it up.
Cool.
And I guess I'm just kind of curious. What made you decide to want to go from working in the industry to also wanting to share that with your YouTube channel and everything?
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah. The way that I learned, truthfully, was playing Capture the Flag, was watching videos online on YouTube, because I wanted to learn how to make video games. I type that into Google, or like how to be a hacker, how to write Python code or Java or whatever. I don't know. I want to make a Minecraft mod, something cheesy as a kid growing up, right? And that's how I learned. I learned from YouTube. I learned from finding free resources online. And I thought at some point, I don't exactly know when, I don't remember, but I was thinking like, you know what? I wonder if I could try to create tutorials just as well, like videos that showcase the stuff. And it might not be good. It might just be me rambling. I still have a lot to learn, But I figure then I've got a cool feedback loop because if people watch it, and even if they don't watch it, hey, I'm sharpening my own skills. I'm trying to be a master of the craft to teach, not only just things that I'm learning. That's the best way to test if you really know something, is if you can try to teach it to other people. And then if people do see it, now I've got this feedback loop because internet comments, right? Haters in the comment section that'll say, "Oh, you could have done this. You could have used this tool. You could have done this in 5 seconds if you had just done that." That helps me learn just as well. So I'm a huge proponent of it. It sounds so dumb if I say like, "Hey, I think everyone should start a YouTube channel," but I genuinely think everyone should try to share and try to give knowledge outward, because it builds up the community in all the right ways, and it builds up you because you can improve in that just as well. I know we're at the top of the hour, and I totally want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I just am grateful for you all hanging out with me. I hope, fingers crossed, there was something valuable in there. I'm super sorry I didn't get the right read. Hey, I know some of those terms might be new, but I hope it's a little bit exciting to see what else you might be able to get into and new resources to play with and tackle. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Question though. How do you maintain your magnificent beard, by the way?
Oh, I don't. I wake up and it's there, and that's it.
Lucky man.
Yeah.
But very flattered. Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess one more time, I just want to say a huge thanks for taking time out of your day to come and talk to us. We really appreciate it. It's been an absolute blast having you. And one more round of applause, honestly.
Thanks, everybody. Hey, please don't be a stranger. You know where to find me. I'm in the Discord server, so if you want to chat, you want to catch up, any more further questions, please don't be a stranger. Consider me a friend. Consider me a resource, and more than happy to chat even more. So, see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I should end it all. Thank you guys for coming. We were thinking of having 1 or 2 more events later this month. I know it's November. It's the end of it's final exams. Okay. I can't. You're gonna get busy. I know. Been there, done that. Everyone's been there, done that. We're gonna have probably 1, 2 maybe, but probably more than one more event later this month, probably November, because we just want to give you all some time to actually study and everything. Please, if you didn't sign in,